Hey everybody, I'm Rick Wheeler. I have the great fortune of being Larry Carlton's guitar tech, traveling the world with him, helping him get all of his equipment and guitars set up properly, and also making sure that everything behind the scenes is working smoothly as well. Today I'm here to talk tech a little bit with you and help explain Larry's setup, how he gets the tone he does, and point out each component involved, as well as explain the signal routing and how we actually get the sound for Larry so he can do his best performing. So today I'd like to start with a few of his components. We've got his pedal board down here, we have an effects rack, a mixer, and also his amp and a couple of speakers on each side of his amp, as well as his cabinet. So we're going to go through each one of those and explain in fairly great detail what we use each of those pieces for and how we get it set up for Larry. I'd like to begin with his pedal board. On the pedal board, you see there are many different things to push with your feet. So I'm just going to go left to right and explain what each of those do. On the very left is Larry's acoustic volume pedal. It's exclusively for his acoustic guitar. As we move further to the right, we've got a Crybaby wah pedal, and then his volume pedal for his electric guitar. This Showbud volume pedal has been modified by Alexander Dumble, and it has a miniature circuit board placed inside of it to keep the highs even as the pedal goes down and the volume increases. Next is just a chorus bypass. That's the chorus clicked in, and this is the chorus not on. Next is a tap tempo delay, where Larry taps the tempo of his delay, and a third tap is a reset. On the far right and closest to his feet are the Dumble overdrive buttons. This kicks in the overdrive section of his amplifier. This gives an extra boost before the EQ section of his amp. On the very top side, we have an A-B switch for him to go from acoustic to electric. Both of those outputs are sent to the tuner, which is a Korg rack mount tuner, which is very easy to see from stage, and it's housed very efficiently in the pedal board, and it folds down for transport. But both guitars hit the tuner, and it's real easy for Larry to tune on the fly and make sure that he's really in tune as he's playing, which is extremely important to him, as you may guess. So from here, we're going to look at how the signal is routed. So as you would understand, both acoustic and electric guitars go into the pedal board, and then everything goes out from the pedal board, as in electric guitar goes out, acoustic guitar goes out. The chorus and delay pedals also go out, as well as the Dumble overdrive and pre-EQ boost. All of that travels in a loom over to his effects rack and the mixer that we use for the effects rack. Basically, Larry has three different effects. He has a tap tempo delay. In this case, it's a Roland SDE 3000. Sometimes we use a 1000, but essentially this is the one that travels with us all the time, the Roland SDE 3000. For reverb, we use a TC Electronics 2000, and we have the reverb set in stereo, and it is a 2.2 second delay on a standard hall setting. The very bottom piece is one of the classic and perhaps the best chorus flangers ever made. They're not produced anymore, but I highly recommend, if you're into that type of sound, that you find one, because they are the best we've ever heard. This is a TC Electronics 1210 spatial expander We use it entirely for a chorus sound. It's very clean, and the settings are absolutely wonderful, varying the speed and the width and the depth of the chorus. All of those effects are routed into a mixer for several purposes. First off, we want to be able to hit the effects from his amplifier with a single Shure 57 standard guitar mic, and we route that into channel 1 of the mixer, and that goes nowhere else except the effects. So we route that in and we hit the effects on the aux sends. First aux send is reverb, second is chorus, third is delay. I mark those clearly so if Larry has to make any adjustments during the performance, he can just walk right up to them and make any adjustment he wants. Channel 2 is the acoustic guitar, and the acoustic guitar not only hits the effects, but is also routed back into a monitoring system, which I'll talk about in just a second. Channel 3 and 4 are stereo reverb, fully panned to each side, and that's the M2000, the TC Electronics unit. Channels 5 and 6 are the TC 1210 chorus unit, panned completely all the way out, left and right, for his chorus sound. And then we have channel 7 is a mono channel of delay from the SDE 3000. And he determines the delay by tapping the tempo, of course. On channels 3 through 7, which are the effects are routed in two ways. We bus the effects to the main output, left and right, and we also bus the effects to a submix so we can send his effects to the front of house monitor snake, which is usually a split snake, so that the monitor engineer and or the front of house engineer have separate control over the effects on his guitar sound. So we come out of the mixer into powered monitor speakers, one on each side of his amplifier, and those serve two purposes. One for his effects only, and the second is for his acoustic guitar dry sound, which obviously in this particular case gets mixed with his effects. We use a variety of powered speakers. In this case we're using Meyer UP1M. Took me a minute. We usually use JBL Eon 10s or 15s, sometimes Mackeys. Any powered monitor is okay. We have to change our EQ setting depending on what the monitors are. But these are the same monitors that Larry used at the Montreux Jazz Fest this summer, and we really liked them. So we got them for this video shoot. Lastly, his Dumble amplifier and a cabinet designed by Alexander Dumble are the integral components for Larry's sound. Larry has two overdrive specials built by Alexander Dumble himself, and this particular one is the one that we use the most. The other one is a spare, but is essentially the same. There are three 12AX7s in the preamp section of this amplifier, and we use four 5881s for the output section. You can also use 6L6s, which we have done for many years, but we've gone over to the 5881s. They're a little darker, a little slower, but overall warmer and hold up a little longer than the 6L6s is what we found. I often get asked how Larry gets his sound. Well, Larry gets his sound because he's Larry, but he plays the guitar, as we all know, but I often say to people that he plays his amplifier as well. He really does a fantastic job of getting a variety of tones just out of Alexander Dumble's amplifier. The way this works is we come in from the pedal board, directly from the pedal board into the input, And then the input, of course, is hit with the initial gain, then goes through the EQ section. The overdrive section is only for the pedal. If he kicks that pedal in, then this section's working. If the pedal's not on, this section just does not do anything. And then we go the output for his master volume, and then there's an overall presence control for Larry's sound. These are the standard settings for Larry when he gets to a gig. This is where I put his amplifier every time we get to a new spot. Larry always makes a few adjustments based on the sound of the room, where his amp is placed on the stage, and some other factors that only Larry really can hear once he gets up and tries to dial things in. But typically this is what we do. We also are very sensitive about voltage. If the voltage is too low, 118 or less, then the sound becomes rather thin and almost compressed. If the voltage is too high, 123 or higher, then what we get is we get the breakup of the amp much more quickly than Larry's used to, so it's a little harder to manage. The ideal voltage setting for these particular amplifiers is 122. 120, of course, is standard for American Power, but 122 is what we try to get. The amp, of course, goes to a single EVM12L speaker housed in a closed back cabinet. Now, Alexander Dumble designed these cabinets as well, and he put two cylindrical baffles on each, on one side of the speaker cone, tuned harmonically to make sure that the cabinet responds optimally to the amplifier. So once the signal passes through the amp to the speaker cabinet, we place two microphones on the speaker cabinet. One microphone goes to front of house and or monitors, and the other microphone, as I illustrated before, goes to the first channel of our mixer. We try to keep the microphones out of the way and not use a stand, so we have a bar that connects it right to his amplifier to keep it safe and so that Larry won't accidentally bump it as he's moving around on stage. And of course, from here, the sound is controlled at the front of house by the front of house mixing engineer, who can mix in his effects separately as well as his regular just raw tone. The reason that we do this is because it's very analogous to a studio setting. It's like being in the studio where you're miking the guitar amp, and you might even be sitting playing behind the control room mixing console, and you might say, I'd like a little more reverb, and the reverb is dialed into the speakers, not the amplifier. There is only the tone from the Dumble head coming through this speaker cabinet. That's it. No effects ever pass through this. So it's very important for Larry's sound that he gets only the guitar amp here and monitors his effects through these powered monitor speakers that sit on either side of his amplifier. So in general, you can see how Larry gets his setup and his sound through the pedal board, through his effects units, all bust through a mixer, coming out to the powered monitors. His tone comes directly from his amplifier, and that's the Larry Carlton setup. Once again, I'm Rick Wheeler. I'm really happy to talk about all this. If you ever see me on the gig, feel free to come up and ask me more questions. Thanks a lot.